The rise and fall of empires have shaped the course of history, and one of the most fascinating stories is that of the British Empire's conquest of India. From the height of the Mughal Empire to the British East India Company's dominance, this transformative journey was marked by strategic battles, political alliances, and the eventual collapse of one of the world's most powerful dynasties. In today's episode of Journey Through Eras, we explore how the British Empire took over India, examining the decline of the Mughal Empire and the rise of British colonial power. The Mughal Empire's rise and decline. The Mughal Empire, founded by Babur in 1526 after his victory over the Sultan of Delhi, was one of the largest and most powerful empires in world history. The empire reached its zenith under Emperor Akbar, reigned 1556 to 1605, who expanded the Mughal territory to include almost all of the Indian subcontinent, excluding the southernmost regions. Akbar's policy of religious tolerance, administrative reforms, and military campaigns contributed to the empire's prosperity. However, after Akbar's death, the empire gradually began to decline. Successive Mughal rulers, such as Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb, struggled with internal divisions, external invasions, and the challenge of governing such a vast and diverse territory. The empire's central authority weakened as regional powers and independent kingdoms, such as the Marathas, Sikhs, and Rajputs, began asserting their autonomy. By the early 18th century, the Mughal Empire was a shadow of its former self. The death of Aurangzeb in 1707 marked the end of the empire's expansion and the beginning of its fragmentation. The Mughal emperors who followed were often weak, indulgent, and unable to control the empire's vast territories. As a result, the Mughal administrative structure began to crumble, and powerful regional leaders rose to prominence. The British East India Company's early involvement. The British East India Company, established in 1600, began its operations in India primarily for trade. The company set up trading posts along the coast, notably in Surat, Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. Over time, the company expanded its influence through diplomatic negotiations, alliances, and eventually, military interventions. The first significant turning point came in the mid-18th century when the British East India Company, capitalizing on the disarray caused by the weakening Mughal Empire, began to gain political and military power. In the wake of the Battle of Plassey in 1757, the British established a firm foothold in Bengal, a wealthy and strategically important region. The victory at Plassey, led by Robert Clive, was pivotal in securing the company's dominance in the region. The British defeated Suraj ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal, and installed a puppet ruler, Mir Jafar, in his place. This marked the beginning of British political control over Bengal and laid the foundation for British expansion in India. The victory at Plassey also had economic consequences. The East India Company gained control over the vast wealth of Bengal, a key resource for financing further British expansion. The company systematically looted the resources of the region, including taxes from local peasants, which caused widespread poverty and suffering in Bengal. The British soon expanded their control over other regions, using military might and political maneuvering to install puppet rulers who would serve British interests. The role of the Marathas and other regional powers. During the 18th century, while the Mughals were declining, other regional powers such as the Marathas, Rajputs, and Sikhs were rising to prominence. The Marathas, in particular, were a major force in India. By the mid-1700s, the Marathas had become a dominant military power, controlling large swaths of western and central India. The Marathas, however, were not a unified empire, but rather a confederation of several factions, each with its own leaders. This lack of cohesion made it difficult for the Marathas to present a united front against the British. In the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Marathas suffered a devastating defeat by the forces of Ahmad Shah Durrani, which significantly weakened their power. Although the Marathas would later recover and pose a threat to British rule, the British East India Company had already taken advantage of their internal divisions and established its control over most of India. The Rajputs and Sikhs, too, resisted Mughal rule and sought to assert their independence. While the Rajputs had a long history of struggle against the Mughals, their resistance was not as effective as the Marathas. The Sikhs, led by Guru Gobind Singh and later by Ranjit Singh, fought both the Mughal Empire and the British. However, after Ranjit Singh died in 1839, the Sikh Empire fell apart, allowing the British to annex Punjab in 1849. The Anglo-Mughal Wars and the decline of Mughal authority. By the late 18th century, the British East India Company had established itself as a major political and military force in India. The Mughals, now relegated to a largely symbolic role, still retained control over Delhi, but their power was largely ineffective. The decline of Mughal power created opportunities for the British to expand their influence, using both diplomacy and force. The British engaged in several military campaigns against regional rulers and former Mughal vassals, systematically breaking down any resistance to their growing power. The most significant of these was the series of Anglo-Mughal Wars, which culminated in the defeat of the Marathas in the Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817 to 1818. With the Marathas subdued, the British East India Company effectively controlled most of India. By 1857, the British had established a near-total hold over India, with the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar becoming a mere figurehead. In that year, the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny, broke out, sparked by discontent with British rule, both among the Indian soldiers, sepoys, and the general populace. The rebellion posed a significant challenge to British authority but was ultimately suppressed. The British response was brutal, and as a result of the rebellion, the British government formally took control of India from the East India Company in 1858, marking the beginning of the British Raj. Thank you for joining us on this captivating exploration of history. The fall of the Mughal Empire and the British conquest of India are critical chapters in understanding the subcontinent's past. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Journey Through Eras. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our deep dives into history's most pivotal moments. Until next time, keep exploring the past with us.